Hello everyone, hopefully you're all doing well today whenever you are watching this video. My name is Toon World and I'll be covering my take on the Punk deck profile. Before we begin, there are a few things I'd like to note. One, this video will be divided into different parts per different sections of the deck. For example, we will tackle the main deck first, the monsters and spells I play, then we'll do the extra deck, and then the side deck last. The chapter titles should help you if they end up working for YouTube. I know some of my videos in the past had video chapters that weren't working and some of them were fixed, though I'm not sure the video chapters for this video will be fixed immediately. Number two, a picture of the entire deck list will be provided at the end of the video in case you are cut for time and want to quickly glance over my ratios. I don't blame you if you need to check the deck list really quick. I know sometimes it can take a while to have to listen to someone explain their choices, so do what you will. 3, the explanations I make in this video are lodged in the assumption you have already read the main Punk cards and know what they do. I will explain some of the non-Punk cards I'm playing, but I won't spend any time explaining each individual Punk card, just because that will save time in the long run. Finally, number 4, remember that at the end of the day, all my deck choices are subjective. I'm not a super active player, nor do I have a huge competitive presence. Even if I did, that doesn't give me the power to impose this list on you. You are the player at the end of the day, crafting your deck. Build it however you prefer to have it built. Simply take my advice as some tips to discover the optimal build. All of this said, enjoy. Okay, as promised, we'll start with the main deck monsters first. We are playing 3 copies of No Punk Z-Amin, 3 copies of No Punk Foxy Toon, and 3 copies of No Punk Ogre Dance. These aren't all the Punk monsters, so just give me a second to explain these 3 monsters and why they're in 3-ofs. This is essentially the core of your deck. Z-Amin searches all of your monsters, Foxy Toon tutors out all of them, bar level 8s, and the No Punk Ogre Dance searches all of your Punk monsters, bar level 8s as well. Essentially, if you've seen my combo videos and or checked the combo spreadsheet, and or if you've seen other videos from other channels on Punk, you notice that what you can do is you can summon Z-Min, search Foxy Toon. Foxy Toon can then discard itself and another card, summon another body out, and then you can make, say, Rising Carp in a peer version if you summon Shirakusai, or you could make Halq-Auroradon Brax by using No Punk as a tuner and whatever amount other monster you summon. So essentially, maxing out all of these copies helps you maximize the consistency of the deck so that you can do your plays as much as possible. For the other Punk monsters, we're also playing 3 copies of Shirakusai and 1 copy of Madam Spider. We aren't playing Gagaku, and I'll explain that shortly. Shirakusai, the reason why I'm playing 3, you can consider it sort of another way to make Halq. I'm playing a Halq-Auroradon version, just so you're aware of that before I tackle my other deck choices. Even though it's kind of rare, you don't open any of these cards, plus E-Telly, which we will talk later, which of course tutors out these Z-Amin. Shirakusai can let you essentially make Rising Carp, and Rising Carp can summon 2 other bodies, and that gives you another way to make Halq and or do other plays you want with the deck. So that's why I'm playing 3. 1 Madam Spider on the other hand. This is crucial to getting your trap cards for most of your combo lines. However, I don't like seeing it in my hand in the sense that versus Shirakusai and Z-Amin, it doesn't necessarily do anything if you were to normal summon it flat, right? Like you normal summon it, it doesn't give you extra bodies. You would need to have this in tandem with E-Telly or Foxy Toon to actually accomplish more than, of course, just grabbing a trap card. So hopefully these make sense. I have considered potentially putting Spider up to 2, though not entirely sure yet. For Gagaku, the reason why I don't play Gagaku is because the spells you search with this deck aren't really that impactful. With the Halq-Auroradon version, most of the end board you have is consistent of non-Punk monsters. So the one spell that prevents targeting isn't that crucial, and then the other one that requires you to battle. Of course, since this is a going first deck and you want to stop your opponent from playing, you don't really need that sort of battle effect, since ideally you stop your opponent and you kill them next turn without needing the extra disruption. So that's it for the Punk monsters. For the non-punk monsters, we're playing 1 copy of Despot 001, 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Cult Wing, 1 copy of Creation Resonator. I'm playing more non-monsters or non-punk monsters, so give me a second. Despot 001 and Mecha Phantom Beast Cult Wing, these are crucial to the Halq-Auroradon combos. Again, if you checked out any videos, Halq-Fibrax summons Despot 001 out. You make Auroradon, you summon 3 tokens, which triggers Despot 001 to summon itself back. Later in that combo line, you can use Auroradon's effect to summon Cult Wing, to summon 2 more tokens, and that will trigger Despot 001 again, since that isn't a hard once per turn. So essentially, these 2 cards are very crucial to you amassing those large boards that you've hopefully seen in other videos. Creation Resonator is my main target for Cupid Pitch. As you see later, I'm playing Mud Dragon Kliga as part of my combo, and Creation Resonator helps you make Mud Dragon or access lines that make Mud Dragon in a more unique fashion, which I'll explain later. But just being able to search this off Cupid Pitch, using it as that extender for those combo lines is very crucial. So if you're playing Kliga like me, you can play this. Of course, there are many other options, so we'll talk about them later. For the other non-punk monsters, we're also playing 3 Mythic Water Dragon, 1 Psychic Tracker, and 1 Magical King Moonstar. Now, these are essentially all extenders, with the latter 2 being searchable off of Cupid Pitch. Mythic Water Dragon is a level 8. It can summon itself if you control a level 3, any Earth monster, and considering that all your level 3 punk monsters are Earth monsters, this is actually pretty easy to summon. Being level 8, you can obviously tune it with the tuners in order to make Amazing Dragon really easily, and making Amazing Dragon early is a pretty good way to bait out your opponent's negates. Alternatively, it can help you extend combos, albeit those combos get very intricate at times, so that's why I don't have them in any of my videos or spreadsheets. For Psychic Tracker, again, ID is another extender. In tandem with one of your level 3s, whether it be a punk monster or Moonstar or one of the hand traps I'm playing, it helps you make Break Sword and Fortune Tune pretty easily, which I'm playing for Zeus, which is nice. It is also 600 defense, so you can search it off of Cupid Pitch if you need to. Moonstar, same idea. You can make rank 3s. It's also 600 defense, so you can search it off of Cupid Pitch. The level modulation effect doesn't come into play too often, though being able to copy any level of a monster on field or in your graveyard can come up. I haven't played this card enough to know for sure. What is cool about this card, though, is that you are capable of searching it off of Cupid Pitch in the case you don't have access to a dark target for Kliga. For example, the way I like to do my combo is I like to get Chaos Ruler out and then summon it back from grave in order to fuse with Mud Dragon to make the Kliga. However, sometimes you can't always do that. So being able to have a dark target searchable that also serves additional function versus something like Defrag Dragon, which requires a discard cost, or Kliga Crow, can be very beneficial. Now, to round out the monsters, we're going to talk about the hand traps. We are playing we're playing the Psy-Frame package here. We're also playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 3 copies of Ghost Ogre. And the reason why we're playing all of this, the Psy-Frame gear engine helps you negate your opponent's hand traps whenever they try to stop you on, say, a Raw Foxy Toon or Raw Numeral Ogre. And there are some other places where this can help you out. For example, if you activate Rising Card and they try to Ash you, this obviously stops it. 3 Ash, sort of a blanket hand trap. I might consider taking this out for a more impactful hand trap this format, albeit I haven't tested this format enough to know. And then Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre seems pretty strong in this format, given Brave Token and some of the other decks that are at the top. It is also a light target, which is neat because when you make Chaos Ruler in the lines that I use, you could potentially add this to hand and have an additional disruption. This goes back to what I was saying about Ash, where I might consider replacing this with maybe a Dark or a light hand trap, so that you can then search it off of Chaos Ruler. So that was a very quick summary of all of the monsters I'm playing. You can see this is the majority of the deck. Now we will quickly talk about the spells and the few traps we're playing. Okay, now we'll talk about the spells and traps. I'm not playing too many spells or traps as you saw per the monster lineup, so we'll be able to go by this quickly, and we'll merge them together. So we're going to be playing here 3 E-Telly, 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, and the 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Now, E-Telly should be self-explanatory in that this is a 1-card combo for the deck. Even if you're not using it as a starter, it is a great extender. Essentially, with the 1-card combo, you summon this out, or you activate this, you summon out Xia-Min. Xia-Min can search Foxy-Tune. Foxy-Tune can discard another card, summon another body, typically Spider, of course, so you can search your trap cards. Then you can make Halq and do your plays from there. Of course, as an extender, you can always just summon out that extra level 3 body to make rank 3s or to make certain synchro monsters. However you use it, it's always going to be a good card to have. So I wouldn't play any less than 3 now that we have it at 3 thanks to the recent ban list. With Cosmic Cyclone, I'm admittedly a little bit afraid of back row decks this format. I haven't played the format too much, so I wouldn't know for sure how strong they are. Nonetheless, in theory, having to deal with 3 Skill Drain and 3 Mystic Mine is very daunting, and so having those outs, when those pivotal moments come out, can definitely help swing the games in your favor. Finally, we're playing 1 copy of Call by the Grave. This is to dodge hand traps. Yeah, that's about it, really. The 1-of's in here just because I have the space. You could always replace this with a different 1-of, or if you want extra extenders or consistency, you could take this out. On that logic of hand traps, though, I do want to mention, you might be asking me, why am I not playing Crossout? And I'm not playing Crossout not because I don't want to play it, but because I don't own any copies as of making this video. I still have yet to buy them, since I only play casually with my friends. Nonetheless, I do advise playing Crossout if you have access to it, in which case I might consider cutting the Cosmics for the Crossouts and then altering the hand trap lineup so that you can incorporate hand traps like Imperm or Nibiru, which can also prove troublesome towards your Halq-Auroradon combos. For the traps, we're only playing 2, and you could probably predict these. We're playing 1 of Nashiwaru Surprise and 1 copy of Dangerous Gabu. Now, these 2 are both searchable off of Spider, and they both offer different functionalities. This one pops a face up, this one negates an effect. So just playing both gives you more flexibility when you're doing your combo. Just depending on the matchup, you can search this or you can search that, and then hopefully that helps you in the long run. So this is all the spells and traps. Now we'll talk about the extra deck. Okay, so for the extra deck can actually be very flexible. I know some of my peers have been saying that extra deck space does get pretty tight. Well, with the way I'm playing it, as you can see, I'm playing a very straightforward build that just sort of streamlines Halq-Fibrax, not really any space or anything else. I found that there's a lot of options I can put in, and so this extra deck can be considered tentative in some ways. This said, we'll start off with the fusion monsters, in which case we're playing 1 copy of Rising Carp, 1 copy of Invoke Kaliga, 1 copy of Invoke Raijin. Now, Rising Carp, as I had said earlier, I like using Shirakuza as an alternative way to sort of combo. So playing the 1 copy is very important for that scenario. I'm not playing more than 1, of course, because it's not really that typical you use Rising Carp going first. It's more for like following turns. And yeah, honestly, don't really summon this too often, which is why I only play 1. Kaliga and Raijin, these are your Mud Dragon targets. As I said earlier, I have an emphasis on making Kaliga in my end boards. So essentially you make this using Mud Dragon and Chaos Ruler, or in those niche scenarios you use Moonstar as your dark target. Raijin is an alternative. Essentially, you can fuse Mud Dragon with Auroradon already on field, so you don't have to use Chaos Ruler and or Moonstar. So I have this in here right now as a second option. Of course, I might replace this because Kaliga is usually better and usually can be made if you get that far. So Raijin's usually overclass. or I guess underclassify that. For the 2 link monsters, these should ring a bell and or be very obvious to you. Crystron Halq-Auroradon and Bcalm. This is the core of the build I'm playing. Essentially, your entire deck right now is centered around making these 2 cards and then comboing from there to make boards such as Savage, Kaliga, Amazing Dragon, and Trap card, or variations of that. So I'll leave it at that for this, since this is pretty staple and you might have seen this already. Of course, if you haven't seen it already, it's okay. You can always research it and you'll see what I mean in terms of these being very vital. For the XYZ monsters, I had alluded to me playing Zeus and targets for Zeus. Again, playing Fortune Tune, Phantom Knights of Breaksword, and Zeus. There is debate on whether or not you actually need to or want to play this. I like playing it because there are a lot of scenarios that I've encountered, at least in my testing, where I go second, I have 2 bodies, or not go second, but like on subsequent turns to my first. I have 2 level 3 bodies on the board. I can't really make too much with my extra deck because, as you see, there aren't many options that I'm playing. And so these help in the sense that you make those level 3s into one of these rank 3s, and then you can make Zeus after you enter battle phase. And these are pretty good for utility. Zeus is Zeus. Don't need to explain why this card's good, hopefully. Now, for the synchros, which are definitely one of the important parts of this deck, we are playing 1 copy of Cupid Pitch, 1 copy of Mud Dragon, 1 copy of Chaos Ruler, 2 copies of the Punk Amazing Dragon, 1 copy of Psyframe Lord Omega, and 1 copy of Borload Savage Dragon. So, to go through things, Cupid Pitch is part of the Halq-Auroradon combo. You make it with Despot 1 and 1 of the tokens, and then you can modulate its level, which helps you make the rank 8s, or sorry, not rank 8s, level 8s. Its effect, as I had also mentioned earlier, being able to search any monster that is 600 defense can come up a lot, especially since all the extenders I'm playing, bar Mythic Water Dragon, have 600 defense. Furthermore, all of your Punk monsters have 600 defense, at least level 3s, so very crucial in that regard. Mud Dragon is important to make Invoke Kaliga and Invoke Raijin. You might have seen this card before in Virtual World, and the same idea still applies here, where you summon this, in my case, with Creation Resonator, then you can fuse it with either Chaos Ruler and or with Auroradon to make out of these 2. Chaos Ruler, there is a line where you make this, it's on the spreadsheet, and you might have seen it before, but you make this on your route to making Kaliga and Amazing Dragon, etc. And you can use this as a dark target to make Kaliga. Also, this lets you help dig into your deck for your lights and darks, being Numeral Ogre, or sorry, Ogre Dance, sorry, that was the OCG name, Foxy Tune, and or your spells, or your light and dark hand traps. Psyframe Lord Omega, this is alternative to Borload Savage Dragon. Your Auroradon combos usually make level 8s. This could be something else you make. Furthermore, since we're playing the Psyframe gear package, this makes the 2 driver and the gamma, they make this whenever you hit your opponent, at least on your turn. I'm playing 2 Amazing Dragon because the first one is part of the combo I do to make Kaliga. The second copy is for following turns. I do find that I do need the second copy a lot, not only to get extra bodies on field when you're trying to go for game, but also for potentially clearing your opponent's disruptions out, say back row or monsters on field, so you can actually get that damage in. So definitely would play this too in a build like this. Of course, as I said at the start of the video, if you have a different build, you don't have to follow what I'm saying here. Finally, we have Borload Savage Dragon, and this is just here as your main level 8 Synchro Negate. You could potentially replace this with something else, though so far I found this is the strongest level 8 Negate we have. So this is the extra deck, and now we'll talk about the side deck. Okay, so for the side deck, this is definitely a very tentative side deck. Again, as you might have heard throughout the video, I'm still testing this deck. Haven't been able to test it too much before it got released, so I'm still trying to figure out where the deck has its weaknesses and so forth. That said, if we are to talk about the monsters, we have 3 copies of Artifact Lancia and 1 copy of Dino Wrestler Pankratops. Lancia is definitely important in this format, with Sword still being a relevant deck, and with PK being at the top, if not close to the top of the tier list. The fact that it's searchable off of Chaos Ruler is very nice, and it also hits a variety of different rogue decks that are lurking around, whether it be, I guess, Orcus, DDD. There are some other decks I'm probably forgetting, but those are the ones that I've played against recently, so it helps out a lot. Pankratops is in here as a 1-of pop. I might consider replacing this in the future, but it is nice to have, as it functions both as an out to back row and as an out to monster heavy fields. Going off the back row aspect though, we are playing for spells 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 3 copies of Twin Twisters, and 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. You can see here, in tandem with my choice to play Cosmic Cyclones, I'm really not a fan of back row decks. I don't think this deck has that great a capacity to play through certain back row decks such as Outlich, at least with the way it's built right now. I know some other builds might have more volatile results, but for me, since I'm playing a very simplified build, these are very important to stopping your opponent from having a strike, having a judgment, having floodgates, so forth. Dark Ruler is in here to stop those monster heavy boards. I think it's self-explanatory in that matter. I guess one particular point of interest is why I'm not playing dropless potentially. I do think you could play dropless in this deck. A lot of your cards, or a lot of your combos, are 1 to 1.5 card combos, so the discard effect isn't that heavy a toll on you. Nonetheless, I don't own any, again, similar to my ordeal with Crossout, so I'm playing these as a replacement until then. Finally, for the traps, and these are very, very unique and or being tested, 3 copies of Deep Barrier and 1 copy of Red Reboot. The Red Reboot, again, really not a fan of back row decks. That's just a personal thing. You might not be as afraid, so you might consider cutting this, plus some of the other spell trap removal for other hand traps. I know that might be the better choice anyways, given that there are a lot of combo decks still relevant. D-Barrier, this is in here to test right now. You can hear sort of how shaky I am on this card. I'm trying to see if this is good as a counter to some of the decks we're seeing, but I'm betting more than likely this will be filtered out in the future. But yeah, essentially this is my take on the side deck. Of course, based on what you think the meta will be, based on your meta calls, there might be better options than this. However, I do feel fairly confident in terms of my build for the main deck and the extra deck. Alright, so as you gaze upon this beautiful deck list, I'm obviously not biased, no way, but there is something I do want to know about this particular build, and that is the strengths and the weaknesses, just in case you decide to build a punk deck similar to what I have here. Now, in terms of strengths, this is a very consistent Halq-Auroradon-esque deck. We had said multiple times across the video that a lot of your combos are very simple, very streamlined, 1 to 1.5 card combos. And it's very consistent at doing that. You have the 3 E-Telly, 3 Xiamin, 3 Foxy Tune, 3 Ogre, and then you also have different permutations that can sort of mimic what you do with just those 12 cards. As a quick example, Shirakusai, for example, is fusion summoning into Rising Carp to get 2 bodies out. So again, very consistent in that, and also the end boards are fairly strong. I know there are decks that can definitely play through a Kaliga, a Savage Dragon, a trap card. Those aren't like the biggest negates. Nonetheless, this will still gain you wins here and there, and against a variety of sort of lesser decks in the meta. Now, that does speak to the weaknesses of the deck. One, that the end board isn't going to be as formidable for all decks. Some decks do have a way to play around Kaliga. Some decks don't even need to deal with Kaliga, and they can play through Savage Dragon, they can play through your Nashiwari Surprise, your Dangerous Gabu, and or hand traps. So that is definitely an issue here. Secondly, given the deck is very streamlined, it's very easy to predict, the choke points for this deck are typically just the Halq-Auroradon, the Auroradon, and anything similar. So if your opponent knows what you're trying to do, and or if they are familiar with Halq-Auroradon combos, which aren't too rare at this point, they'll know to stop these two cards, and then if you get stopped, you don't have any good follow-up, you're kind of just stuck there. Also with this build, you notice that I'm not playing too many extenders, so even if you did want to sort of further your plays, if you get hit on the Halq or the Auroradon, it's very hard. There aren't really two great options to continue your plays from a sort of stopping point like that, so that's something you have to keep in mind. I still play the deck like this because I like simplistic builds. I like very streamlined, do this, and then if your opponent has an out, they have it, but if they don't, then you accomplish what you're trying to do. That isn't always going to be the best ideology for all decks and for all metas, so you might consider changing what I have here in order to better accommodate your own ideology, to better tackle whatever meta we are going to see, and so that you have more fun playing it. Like, I definitely have fun playing the streamlined build, though some of you might want that extra variance to spice things up. That is definitely the main strengths and weaknesses. You can see there are definitely some very good strengths, some very noticeable weaknesses. Nonetheless, Punk is definitely still a very fun deck to play. It's still decently cheap depending on how you build it. Of course, you can see here I'm playing a more expensive version than sometimes need be, but I definitely recommend picking up the deck if you'd like it, because it has beautiful art, it has a very fun play style, and I know that it will definitely get you far in some sense. This all said, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Hopefully you can all remember to like and subscribe. If you have your own deck profile or deck lists, and or if you have your own deck choices you'd like to share with me, I'd gladly welcome those in the comments. I'll definitely respond to those comments. We can talk things out. I love hearing what everyone else has to offer for this archetype that I so dearly love. Now, with all that out of the way, I'll cue the outro.